Hi there, this is the Casual Hammerer, and this is my impressions of the first day's worth of news coming out of Warhammer Fest 2019. Because I'm a casual Warhammer player, I'm going to skim over the stuff that's not too interesting to me. So this is mainly going to be Age of Sigmar focused, but we'll skim through the whole article and pick out the stuff that's cool. So obviously the big news from Warhammer Fest this year is the fancy new Citadel Colour contrast range, which is geared towards casual painters like me, people that aren't too fussed about getting the maximum amount of detail from their miniatures, and people that are new to the hobby as well. It's like some special sort of pigment viscosity thing they're using, where the paint uh, dries darker in the recesses and lighter on the top level surface of the model, so it gives you that nice base coat highlight layer feel that you get from the traditional three-step process. I'll go into more detail on it later on, but those are the first images that are there. So let's get past all these fancy cosplay images, which are cool, and people are taking photo opportunities, which is always good fun. And let's get to the meat of the news. So you've got the new stuff for the Middle Earth strategy battle game, which is all the Lord of the Rings stuff, which I never really got into. It sort of had its heyday when I was out of the hobby. But the cool thing that has come from this is this lovely Hobbit hole kit that you can get now. Well, you which will be able to get soon, where you just get a couple of pieces and you're encouraged to make your own little lovely hobbit hole, and it's super adorable, and I sort of want one despite not playing that game or having any of the miniatures in that range. But yeah, cool idea. So skip past all that stuff and we get to the Age of Sigmar stuff, which is the main thing I'm interested in. So we've got news that the new General's Handbook is coming soon. I saw an image online from the brochure for the Warhammer Fest event saying that it's going to come out in June, I think it was, which is pretty cool. So next month we'll have updates to the ways we can play the game, new pitch battle profiles for the hyper competitive people amongst us. But you know, me being the casual guy, I'm more interested in the open play narrative stuff. So we've got some teasers here for some new army generators and close quarter battles rules for open play, and hidden agenda rules to spice things up in the more casual play setting. Then in narrative, we've got new special rules for Streets of Death, which will be fighting through cities and strongholds. If you want sort of an idea of how this will work, you just have to look at like the underground battles rules that were in the General's Handbook for last year, and I think it was the core rules as well. I can't quite remember. But it's basically like little twists on the core rules for Age of Sigmar to make narrative set battles in specific locations more dynamic and interesting. We also have name generator tables, which excites me as someone who's terrible at naming things. If I can just roll a few dice and come up with wonderful names for all my goblins and Stormcast Eternals, I'll be very happy. And then we've got mercenary companies rules, which is interesting. It seems like one of the things they seem to be pushing with Age of Sigmar for the next 6 months at least, with the General's Handbook and the new expansion that's coming out, is the idea of taking forces from other armies and alliances and adding them to your own. Obviously, the cynical way of looking at it is to allow people to buy more miniatures from different ranges, hopefully fall in love with them, and then start collecting those armies, building them up into proper forces. But I just like the idea of just being able to go, I've got my army of angels, and I really want to add some dwarves to it, because why not? What's really stopping me apart from something that's written in the rules? And as we know, for Age of Sigmar, the rules are always in flux, which is why it's such a great game. And the Mercenary Company's rules should hopefully give some sort of stamp of approval for people to do that a bit more openly and casually, which is great. Then match play, we've got standard prerequisite new battle plans and some stuff that's more geared around tournament play, which is interesting. So templates for running tournaments and meeting engagements, which, as they say in the article, is new balanced rules for 1,000 point armies. With a few key twists on the Age of Sigmar rules that enable quicker play, which is really interesting because the game's already quite quick, and with especially 1,000 point armies, you're going to get through a game in no time at all. But anything to speed it up is always great in my book, and if it works well, it's something I'll probably integrate into my own games because I already use the points to make equalish forces when I'm playing narrative and open play games. Then we come to Warcry. I'm going to play the videos with no sound. This is obviously the big new super secret skirmish sub game coming out for Age of Sigmar later this year. So we've got this rather stupid looking live action on green screen video to give you a taste of the game, which is fine. I enjoy the videos that the Warhammer community team are coming out with, and the way that advertising the products now is a lot better than it used to be. It certainly gets you interested, and what this video does a good job of is setting the tone for Warcry. It has this very gladiatorial combat feel, very rough around the edges, people thrown into arenas to fight to the death with their various weapons and things. So I'll stop that for now. We'll go to the important videos, which is the reveal of the new warband for Warcry. So like all the others, these miniatures just look fantastic, and these ones have a bit more of like a supple feel to them. I'll say they're not big hulking barbarians like we've seen in the other miniatures that they revealed so far. These are very traditional looking gladiators in a certain way. So they have lots of nice plate armor going on. This one's actually an elf, which is cool, a chaos elf, always good to see. Hopefully a tease for future stuff, as they seem to like doing with the Age of Sigmar range, where they'll use these side games and spin-offs to tease upcoming factions. So maybe we'll get some more dark elves in the future. Then we've got this crazy guy here who's got his two giant snakes, what looks like a poison dart in his right arm there, and some more attached to his belt. Obviously, these guys are going to be very much damage over time orientated and sneaky, stabby in the back type people, I imagine. And then we've got these two miniatures here that are the ones that I'd say are more like traditional gladiators. So you've got this sort of like fish scale, like serpent scale armor, and this guy here is like straight out of like my classics history books back in school when I was doing GCSEs. He's got a trident and a net, which is like primo gladiator gear back in the day, and that's cool. And then we get to the Warhammer Underworld section of the AOS reveals, so we get a tease on what Season 3 is going to be. I still need to get Season 2 stuff, and I look at one of the miniatures from the new warbands, which, again, like they did with Season 2 especially of Warhammer Underworlds, where a lot of the miniatures in the warbands there were teasers at what was to come down the line. So Zarbag's Gits gave us a hint at what would become the Gloomspite Gits. So this lion creature has got lots of people, including myself, wondering what we're going to get. So obvious guesses are it could be some sort of high elves type army, lots of lion iconography there. It could even be free people's final, we never know. But naturally, everyone is inclined to think it's just another Stormcast warband, and we're going to get a new chamber of Stormcast Eternals that use lions as their go-to thing. But you never know. We could get something new and unique instead. So sadly that's it for the Age of Sigmar stuff. Obviously the General's Handbook is always good to see, and the Warcry thing, I'm really interested in that game, and Warhammer Underworlds is just a fantastic game, and I'm always interested to see more about that. But aside from General's Handbook, we didn't get any reveals for miniatures for the core Age of Sigmar game, which is a bit weird. Obviously they've got some issues going on at the moment, as many people know, with the Sylvaneth stuff being delayed in transit due to ongoing trade disputes between China and America. But yeah, it just seems off that we haven't got any teasers for stuff coming for the main game yet, particularly when we know there's a big expansion on the way, and there's even shots from the show floor where they're showing off the new terrain kits. Maybe some more details on that, and examples of how it could be set up in different ways, or just like a full reveal of the upcoming expansion would have been great. But obviously it doesn't fit their rollout plan for AOS going forward, and they've probably pushed the full reveal for that down the line a bit, which is a bit of a shame, because Warhammer Fest is the opportunity to go big or go home. But there we have it. Then we come to the box games, specialist games division stuff. We've got the Halflings for Blood Bowl, which not a team I generally play as when I play Blood Bowl. I have an old, I think it's 3rd edition Halfling team, the little metal guys. They're good fun to play with if you fancy a chat lounge, but I would never fancy running in a league with them because they're super hard to play. But there's some great miniatures here, and the character and humour like just shines through on the sculpts, which is great to see. And then you've got the prerequisite pitch, Spike magazine tie-in, dice cards, all that stuff. And a tease for the upcoming Wood Elf players with some more female sculpts and special characters, bringing them closer to the Sylvaneth, which is quite interesting. But hey, I don't think we're ever going to get a Age of Sigmar style Blood Bowl all the way, but one can dream. And then the Necromunda stuff I'm going to skim over because I've never really played Necromunda. It's a game that's never really grabbed me. But as per usual, lots of heads and lots of additional add-ons you can get to upgrade and change the figures you already have, and special characters, and this cool looking guy with candles on his head. And then a tease for something Necromunda related down the line of people shouting at a door and the door slowly opening and revealing a logo. Again, all that flies right over my head. And the next thing we have is Adeptus Titanicus, another game I've not played because it's all the Titan stuff, and the way the pricing and structuring this game in particular is really odd, where everything's very separated, and to be able to play the game, you're buying like 5 different things. It always feels off to me whenever I look at it. It seems like a good game, but I just don't like the idea of having to price up a lot of stuff and then realising, oh shit, I'm spending X amount of money on one game. And then they ended this presentation with a tease for Aeronautica Imperialis, which is another game that passed me by in its original release. It's sort of dogfighting with Imperial-style airships. Has a very like sort of World War II Spitfighter dogfighting type feel to it. So this is obviously just them announcing that it's coming back bigger and better than before, with more support, hopefully. And then Horus Heresy stuff. I try not to look at it because I want it, but I know I could never afford it because it's Forge World. One day, when I'm rich and famous, we'll see. But yeah, look at this guy. So good. The main thing that like grabbed my eye from all this Horus Heresy stuff is right at the bottom here. These new Chaos Demons that are meant to be like the first ones that come out of the warp when it's all kicking off. And just look at this guy. So cool. And it's like, hopefully they'll, like with many Chaos Demons and miniatures, you'll get rules for Age of Sigmar for these guys as well, because why not? Because just look at them. They belong in Age of Sigmar more than 30k. And then get to the Warhammer 40,000 stuff. More details on the forthcoming Apocalypse expansion, which is, as any long-standing Warhammer 40k player will know, is the larger scale format for the game, where you're playing with hundreds, if not thousands, of miniatures if you can get your hands on them, massive scales, and the whole point is that you're controlling hundreds of troops, but it's not taking too much longer than a normal game of 40k. It never quite worked in previous versions from my experience and watching people play it. But this one, they seem to be doing a lot of stuff to try and make it feel big, but also quick and streamlined at the same time, which is good to see. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And the other thing from the reveal of Apocalypse is that the rules for specific armies are going to be available free online, which they're slowly starting to do with 40k. And it makes me just want to go like the whole Age of Sigmar route with 40k, where a lot of the rules and supplements are available for free. At the moment with 40k, it's a bit sort of disjointed and all over the place. Some things are available readily, others are not. There's no centralised app like the Age of Sigmar app where you can get everything yet for 40k. I'd really hope they do something like that down the line. But obviously 40k, they have to take baby steps, because any changes to 40k and people seem to get angry for some reason. I don't know why. And then miniatures reveals wise, we've got tanks and transports, and these cool looking World War II style beachlanders and all that stuff, and reveal for the the Chaos Knights, which for some reason isn't letting me click on it. And like all Knights miniatures, they look fantastic, and the details look amazing. But what always puts me off getting them is the cost. £100 for one miniature is a bit of a stretch for me for where I am at the hobby at the moment. Maybe in a few years, and if I'm playing War 40k down at the moment, which is just dabbling here and there, they'll be worth it. But for now, they're good to look at and just dream about owning one day. And of course, the Chaos Knights are getting their own codex as well, which is cool, adding more background details and special rules for them, which is good to see. And then the last thing from the 40k presentation is more Sisters of Battle stuff, mainly a reveal of one of the finished miniatures. Well, one of the prototype finished miniatures, because as you can see on the bolter, there are some 3D print lines from the looks of it on there, which looks a bit off. But otherwise, this is a great looking sculpt, and the detail on there is fantastic, and it just makes me excited for the Sisters of Battle, and I've sort of promised myself not to get any more 40k stuff until the Sisters of Battle come out, and then use them as an excuse to try and jump into 40k a bit more than I already am. But yeah, this is great sculpt, and it gives me hope for the rest of the line of miniatures when they'll be revealed and available for sale. And there's a little hint here at the end that we'll be able to get our hands on this figure in particular sooner rather than later. That's sort of like a tease and a bit of a pre-release to get hype building for the Sisters of Battle full release. Okay, so we'll end with a quick chat about the contrast paint range. So this is the semi-controversial new line of paints from Citadel, where the idea is it's one coat of paint, just slap it on there, and you're getting your mix of your base colour and your highlights, allowing you to get pretty good results from the looks of it from a minimum amount of effort. Obviously, the images shown are marketing ones, so of course the one with the new paint method is going to look slightly better than the one with the classic method, but hey, just have to look past that stuff and look at it for what it actually is, which is a great range of paints, which is going to be good for people like me who have a lot of models that are unpainted or in various stages of being painted. I just want to put some primary colours down and say, like, the Khorne Bloodbound figures I have, and just get them painted so I can play with them and feel like I'm playing the game properly, and having everything looking reasonably good on the table from a distance. I'll save the more traditional painting method for the main armies I'm collecting, which is of course my Stormcaster Turtles and my Gloomspite Gits, where I'll put a bit more time and effort into them. But again, at the same time, with my Gloomspite Gits, I'm looking at this paint range and going, that's going to be really good to paint up all my stabbers and shooters and get those huge horde type units painted quickly with the minimum amount of fuss, and just concentrate my time and effort using traditional painting methods on my special characters and my bigger units, which is of course what I want to do. Obviously stuff like this always has some level of controversy around it, particularly online with Warhammer fans, where people are going to go, well, it's just inks on white paint, what's so special about it, and this is not really changing how we're painting our figures and all that stuff, and it's not revolutionary and all that stuff. But I think those people are missing the point, because this paint range isn't for them. If you love painting every miniature you have to the maximum amount of detail 100% of the time, and you want everything to look as good as it possibly can be, just carry on doing what you're doing. Who this paint range is aimed at is people like me. I just want to get stuff down quickly on the table and concentrate on making the stuff that I really want to look good look really good. And of course, new people into the hobby, this is the main target for this new line of paints. Just think, when you were 10 years old and you first started getting your Warhammer stuff, you look at all the pictures in White Dwarf magazine, you see the miniatures your friend has built his army up over the past few years, and they're looking really good, looking really cool, and you get your first Space Marine, because you always get the Space Marine first, and you slap that paint on, and then you end up with something looking like this. which is Duncan's first miniature from way back when. It looks horrible, the paint's too thick, it's a complete mess. You look at it, you finish it, you feel a slight bit of pride going, I painted something, look at this little guy's my Space Marine, but deep down inside, you know it's terrible, and you might step away from the hobby before you even begin at that point. And I certainly know a lot of people who did. They dipped their toe in, painted one miniature, didn't turn out the way they thought it would, and it didn't look like it did in the magazines or online or in the tutorial videos they were following, and then that's when they threw in the towel because it was going to be too hard to get to that level of skill to be what's considered passable by the very hard-lined, eager eyes of the Warhammer community. But something like this, if you can just, if it does what it says, where you can just paint your base colours on and get this amount of detail and highlights coming through with the minimum amount of effort, that's going to be great. And that first miniature you paint, it's going to blow your mind, and you're going to go, I'm the best painter ever, and you're going to buy more miniatures, buy more paints, collect an army, actually play the game sooner than you would otherwise. That goes for both 40k and AOS, and that's what's got me so excited about this. This is going to be a great way to bring more people into the hobby, particularly like all those friends you have that are like, oh, I don't know, I don't have the time to get into Warhammer because it takes so long to paint right. I see you, I know what you're doing. You're always complaining about spending hours upon hours painting these miniatures. But if I can just turn around and go, no, there's this special range of paints where you can just get similar results to what I'm doing in like a fraction of the time. I'm able to get my friends into the game a lot easier, and hopefully more long term as well, which is what we want, because sharing the hobby is what we need. So yeah, personally I'm excited for the contrast range. I'm going to grab a bunch of them when I get them, probably try them out to paint up my Sylvaneth from the Loon Curse box, which I should be getting this week. And yeah, it's certainly, it's not as like groundbreaking as they were teasing it was going to be, but for the people they're targeting at, it's the perfect product, and I'm certainly gonna mess around with it and try and get some cool results from it. So yeah, that's everything from the first day of Warhammer Fest, and yeah, some pretty cool stuff in there. A bit of a shame on the AOS front, since all the major announcements were for side games rather than the main game. As much as I like the General's Handbook, we knew that was coming anyway. It wasn't a big surprise. The contents of it looked great, but just like a tease or something for like a bigger release would have been cool. There's like a sense that there's going to be another new faction on the horizon. Just a slight tease for that would have been great. One model, something. Oh. Anyway, so yeah, that's it for now. If there's anything cool announced tomorrow, I'll do another one of these quick videos really quickly. But yeah, that's day one of Warhammer Fest, and that's my impressions. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.